social work literature and social work textbooks are inadequate for teaching social work students about social justice for men. Let's take a look at that situation. We'll look at social work textbooks in a few minutes, but right now we're going to look at 2 social work journals and see the results of database searches using the words men and women as subject words. First, the results for CSWE's Journal of Social Work Education from 1990 to 2014. In those 24 years, there were 6 articles with men as a subject term. You can see those 6 articles listed in the column on the left. In the right-hand column, let's see how many articles had women as a subject term. As the titles scroll by, notice the breadth and depth of concern our profession pays to women's needs and problems. "41, almost 7 times as many with the subject term women as with the subject term men. Now we'll look at articles in NASW's journal, Social Work, between 1956 and 2014. In the left column, let's see how many items had men as a subject term. "34. And how many had women as a subject term? Again, as we scroll through the list, take note of the great variety of women's issues the journal has covered. "232. Again, almost 7 times as many with the subject term women as with the subject term men. At least 2 researchers have published articles on this situation. Here's an item from 1990. Where are the fathers in social work literature? A review of 5 major social work journals published during a 27-year period indicates that the literature on fathers is sparse. The view of fathers that emerges from articles that have been published shows fathers as perpetrators, as missing, and as embattled. If the social work profession is to remain committed to working with families, then researchers and practitioners must study the changing patterns of fatherhood. And here is another item from 2002. Heterosexual males, a group forgotten by the profession of social work. Social work literature has mainly focused upon females and gay males. A search was undertaken of general references to heterosexual males in published social work articles and appearing in book reviews and publishers' ads in 2 prominent social work journals during the last decade. The conclusion reached was that heterosexual males are seldom discussed, and when they are discussed, they are portrayed in a very biased manner. It is believed that social workers do not receive necessary preparation for understanding and working with heterosexual males, especially from minority and immigrant groups who are facing emotional, physical, interpersonal, and family problems. A stereotypic view of heterosexual males is both unfair and untrue, and precludes necessary attention in the classroom and in practice to their normative needs and special problems. The treatment of men in social work and social justice textbooks reveals the same shortcoming. We'll look briefly at the indexes of 4 textbooks currently in use. First, this book published in 2007. Notice that men are not mentioned at all in the index. Next, this one published in 2011. Here, men are mentioned in the index, but only as causing social justice problems, not as having social justice problems. Third, this textbook published in 2012. Again, men are not mentioned at all in the index. And finally, this book, also published in 2012. Here we see reference to men's power and privilege, but no mention of problems or difficulties. By contrast, this textbook has an extensive catalog of issues directly relevant to women. So, what accounts for this rather remarkable imbalance in social work journals and social work textbooks? In social work, we often refer to male power as the patriarchy. It is often depicted as a pyramid because male power tends to be hierarchical. The golden dollar sign at the top of the hierarchy represents money, but not just money. It also represents things associated with money: political power, physical comfort and security, and opportunity for self-fulfillment, to name a few. Meanwhile, women's powerlessness is represented by the low pink line down and to the right. We're familiar with the sexism that maintained and justified this imbalance. The idea was that it was inevitable and even natural that men should have money and power because men are naturally smart, strong, and capable, while women by nature are weak and silly. Or so the thinking went. And here is how we typically envision male power operating. Men have all the power, and they use it to oppress women. It seems only right and just that in this circumstance, women should be the objects of our concern. But what if there's more to this picture than just patriarchy? Instead of looking at this situation horizontally across the landscape, what if we look at it from another perspective? Let's imagine that we're getting into a helicopter and flying above the patriarchy so we can look down on it from above. Now we're going up, and now we're looking down as we fly forward. From this perspective, we can see that the powerful male hierarchy is, in some ways, a precarious facade. And we can see that what we thought was a low, pink, powerless line is not so powerless. The red heart at the center of the female power structure represents love and all of the good things associated with love. Relationships, emotional caring, a feeling of purpose and belonging, primary relationships with children, the opportunity to be generative and nurturing, to name a few. Unfortunately, we as social workers are generally not at all conscious of the sexism that maintains and justifies this imbalance. The idea is that women naturally and inevitably have dominion over nurturing and relationships because women are naturally kind, patient, and unselfish, while men by nature are mean, egotistical, and oppressive. But is power over relationships that women have really as important as the kind of power men have? Our social work code of ethics holds that recognizing the central importance of human relationships is one of the core values of our profession. And CSWE's accreditation standards say much the same thing. Researchers have recognized that relationships, especially family relationships, are essential for men's health and happiness. Here's an article from 2013. Friends are equally important to men and women, but family matters more for men's well-being. Having a well-integrated friendship network is a source of psychological well-being among middle-aged adults, while kinship networks appear to be more important for men's well-being than for women's. These relationships are independent of education, material status, and prior psychological health. People who have power can sometimes use their power unjustly, as in these two simple examples. They both begin with, "If you don't do what I say." A man might abuse his economic power like this: "If you don't do what I say, you will never get another penny from me." And a woman might abuse her relationship power like this: "If you don't do what I say, I'll make sure you never see your kids again." Remember this book? It was the least balanced of the four we looked at earlier. Ironically, the authors instruct us on how important it is not to ignore any group, even as they almost completely ignore men. Here's what they had to say. The exclusionary thinking that comes from past frames of vision simply does not reveal the intricate interconnections that exist among the different groups that comprise U.S. society. There are real consequences to having partial or distorted knowledge. Learning about other groups helps you realize the partiality of your own perspective.